Welcome to the Spiritual and Empowerment Living with Tia podcast, a sacred place and resource for spiritually centered women who want to go from the mundane to the magical life, for overcoming fear and doubt, reconnecting with the goddess, understanding messages from spirit, and uncovering your spiritual gifts so you can finally live the life you deserve. Hello, Spiritual Trailblazers, and welcome to another wonderful episode. I cannot wait to introduce you to our guest. I am super excited, so let's get started. Tonya A. Brown is a current resident of New Orleans, Louisiana, where she is the editor-in-chief of Which Way magazine, as well as writer and host of the podcast, Witch Deli Show. Tonya is the nomad, reader, medium, and magical guide for other witches. Please check out Which Way magazine at whichwaymagazine.com. Tonya, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me on.
Yes, I am so thrilled that you're on, and I've been wanting to ask you to come on for so long. I was just like, I have to ask one day, and I did it, and I'm glad that you are here. So I definitely want to dive into what the magazine is all about and to let the listeners know even more about this, but I definitely want to get to know you a little bit more. So what is your daily influence, inspiration, as far as like how you got to this point?
Oh my gosh. So how I got to this point, basically, I really followed like the rule book in terms of like where my life went. I went to school, I went to college, I got a job the day I graduated. Like I was, I came from a really, really low income background. So I was just like, this is what you do to like be successful and to be happy. And after like 4 or 5 years, I was so unhappy. And I heard this little voice in my head that said, this chapter of your life is over, move on. And it sounded like, it was the strongest voice. Like I remember where I was. I remember what day it was, like when I heard it. And I kind of had this awakening where I realized I want my life on earth to bring more good than harm. And I quit my job. I started working at the local library, and I really loved stocking or like organizing the magazine section because there were all these magazines for all these random things. And I'm like, this is really fun. And I was like, I want to start a little magazine. And it was really, I thought it would be like a one-time project that I would quit after like one project because Aries. And it just became a thing. And I feel so lucky and blessed that like I was aware enough to get that information that led me in this direction.
And kudos to you for answering the call. I know there are so many people for various reasons who don't do it. And unfortunately, it will be 10, 20 years later and they have a regret. So is there something that you can, like a tip or like a saying that you can give people when they hear that calling, but they're having doubts about answering it?
Yes. Oh my God. So, one, it is scary. It is scary. It's okay to feel that fear. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to feel that knot in your tummy that says, but no, don't. It's safer over here. Like that's okay. And it's okay to acknowledge those feelings, and it's okay to process that and to live in that for as long as you need to. However, I genuinely feel the longer you hold off where the universe is pushing you, the more difficult things are going to get. And the harder it will be to move on to that path later on.
Oh, so true, especially when people think about a support system. Like you said, it is scary. And I learned this a little while ago that there are a lot of people who just don't have that. And I'm not even talking about a net, just like one other person who's going to help them. But I think the internet helps now, where you have a friend, like you're in Louisiana, I'm in Pennsylvania. So now I think we can find friends online that can be our support system, that can give us a little nudge as well.
Yeah, people really underestimate that. I started the daily podcast about a year ago, and the number of people who write in and just say, I used to feel really alone. And now I feel like I have a friend who I can talk to every morning. And I think people like me, who maybe lives in a bigger city, or who does live in a place that it's easy to find people who are more spiritually minded, it's easy to forget that there are a lot of places in the United States and the world where there's just not that access.
Right, exactly. So I had to ask you, did you used to pen pal back in the day?
No, I still pen pal. I became a bad pen paler at a moment. I still have all my letters, and I keep thinking, okay, I need to respond to them. Yes, I still kind of do. What happened was, like, there was like a weird moment where I was writing a book. I had a family death, and I had a really big move, and like my world kind of got turned upside down, but I still have all my letters, and I'm just like, just go to breakfast, sit down, and start this up again. But yeah, I have my little stack of letters I need to respond to, and I honestly feel so bad that I think it's been like a year I haven't responded, so I need to like do something really cute, do a little gift box, and be like, I am so sorry. I dropped the ball. Respond to everyone.
I missed that. I had, when I was in grade school, I had a friend in Idaho. And the only thing I knew about Idaho back then were the potatoes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's all I know about Idaho.
Right. And we would pen pal. My school coordinated with a school over there. I don't even know how they did it. This was the early 90s. And it was so cool. She sent stickers, because that was the thing. You send me little stickers and like Care Bear stickers. And, and I think about that from time to time, how cool that would be, especially now, to have a pen pal as another form of support. So
yeah.
That's cool.
I think there actually are witchy pen pal Facebook groups that like match people up. But I'm saying that like really off the cuff. I don't know if it's like one group that happened to have done it once and I just saw it. But yeah, like with the internet and Facebook and Instagram, it is so awesome to find, these support systems and to find people, you can talk to. Yeah, like, it really is incredible.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you also mentioned your podcast, because I know it's really hard to find a podcast where the host and the guests are just really down to earth and make you feel comfortable listening to them. Especially when you are trying to find your place, especially in the witchy world. So I'm just, again, thankful that you have that podcast, and it's every day. I don't know how you get to do it. That's a lot of content.
Oh my God. It honestly, it really is a commitment. Like I really have to make it a priority, and I'm really happy I did it. It was just a random idea, and I was like, well, let's see. And now we have this like Facebook group where everyone talks to each other. Nobody does any gatekeeping. Mm-hmm. There's none of that, well, a real witch would stuff, and if we see it, we remove that person. There's so many spaces that unfortunately are kind of dominated by these shoulda kind of gatekeepy things, and it's really important to me to never foster a space like that.
Right. And I really appreciate that, which lets me segue into the Which Way magazine. I was actually going through my emails to try to find out just how long I've been subscribing. I think it's about 4 years now.
Yeah, we've been active for about 5.
Okay,
and And I do recognize your name. So I know you've been like a reader for a really long time.
Yeah, I remember when I discovered it and it felt like, finally, yes. Like it was just something about just the name alone. So the question is, wait, I know you said when you were in the library, you were looking at different magazines and it was kind of like a potpourri of different things. But when did you know, like exactly, like, okay, this is the time for this magazine? And was it always set to be called Which Way?
Yeah. So it's funny. I don't even know how I came up with the title. And people have asked me, how'd you come up with that? I'm like, I really don't remember. So it was probably just one of those, it was probably the first thing I thought of. Because again, I didn't think it would be anything. So I wasn't really focused on that. But one thing that I think that makes me kind of lucky is I was really disconnected from the witch community. I didn't even know there was such an established witch community when I started the magazine. Most of my witchy friends and spaces happened in person, not over the internet. And I don't know how I missed it, quite honestly. So when I did start the magazine, I didn't think about that. And because of that, there are honestly, and I feel kind of guilty, but there are a lot of names I don't know. There's a lot of people I don't know. And because the magazine did kind of become a cool little thing, now there's like these expectations people I don't even know have about me. And it's kind of great because there's no fear of anyone or any group or any community stopped me from doing the magazine and doing what I wanted to do. But I definitely have found myself in this world I did not know existed.
That's really interesting. And I love that because it's like you were detached, but not on purpose. And that's one of the things, even when we do spell casting, right, is to, do the spell, but detach yourself. I know for me, it's kind of hard because I'm just creative person. I just imagine like 500 different ways it can unfold. So I think that's really cool because also you literally paved your own way. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. When you did this. So it's like you created your own community, and I just believe that the right people do eventually become attracted to, what you put out there. So I think that Which Way magazine, I believe that it really does have a strong impact on the witch community.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Problem.
Oh, yeah, I really am lucky. And even recently I've been kind of reevaluating my role in the witchy world. And I am stepping away from some day jobby stuff. And so I've been really focusing like what's my role and what am I good at? And I've really figured out that I'm just good at supporting other witches. So I am not yet, but I am going to start maybe doing some, counseling, for witches who do feel alone and who do need a little bit of a guide and a little bit of hand holding, to get started, because there's so many resources and there's so many places to look for, information to start. And it can be really overwhelming. So I think that's my next step. And I'm hoping to get into that pretty soon.
Awesome. Yeah, it can be overwhelming and a bit misleading, like you were saying earlier with the gatekeeping and things like that. And I know when I was diving into this years ago, yes, there was information on the internet, but social media was not where it is now back then. And you have a lot of people saying a lot of things, and it can be very discouraging because they're saying this way, someone's saying that way, and it's like, not exactly. It's not a different school of thought. It's you are being really wrong right now. So
Yeah. Or putting limitations. And one thing that I've figured out, like not figured out, but one thing I've always said and felt is magic comes in so many forms.
Mhm.
It spans all cultures, it spans all people. So as diverse as people can be is how diverse magic can be. And when there are people who say, well, you have to do it like this, part of me thinks, if you were really comfortable with what you were doing and you were really secure in your craft, in your magic, you wouldn't be so concerned about what other people are doing because you wouldn't
Right.
care. And so it makes me wonder, what's not working for you that you feel so pressured to police what other people are doing to prove to yourself that that's the right way?
Absolutely.
So it makes me think that maybe they need to do some refiguring with what they've got going on.
Absolutely. And this is one more reason why I love Which Way magazine, because it's filled with such great content, but also I know you started having, Ask the Witch column and things like that. So how do you curate your content, the material for Which Way magazine? Because it's just like, it's so well put together. It flows very well.
Oh, see, that's really sweet because it really is kind of like a mosh posh. Um, really, how I do it, and this has always been a really big focus for me, is the whole purpose of the magazine was to be a platform for anyone who has something to say and can say it pretty well. So basically, we are submission based, as well as people who have submitted. If their article has been approved, they can then become a regular contributor. And basically, I kind of give like a category of like what I would kind of like to focus on, but pretty much I let the writers write about almost anything they want. And I do this because, one, whatever you're passionate about, you're going to share the best information about. If I try to force a topic or force a subject, it's not going to be a great article because they may not be feeling that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then also we get to explore things that I have no interest in. If I dictated all the columns, it would just be all the things I like, which is probably like 1% of what witchcraft is.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer is I let anyone pretty much do whatever they like.
Wow, that's great. And I also think it's pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? It's pretty considerate of you to say, look, this is what I like, but I understand it's more than my interest. And that's cool. And then you gave it to, or you gave that helm to someone who is interested and well-versed enough that they can write about that. That's pretty cool.
And I feel like that's going to just create the most diverse, interesting, and then also, let's say there's like this one technique of magic that like almost no one's into, but like this one writer just happens to be really into it. And maybe like 99% of the readers are like, oh, I don't really care about that. But like the 1% who like really get something from it, like it's going to mean a lot to them. Yeah. And I've always really focused the magazine on these are things you can add to your practice. Mm-hmm. Never like, this is what your practice should be. But hey, you can add this. You can add this. If you like this, you can add that. Maybe not this. So it's never been a how-to witchcraft magazine, but it's always been like, here's just a little extra stuff you can add to your life.
Yeah, I like that. And just even a side note about numbers, because I know numbers are a huge thing for people now, especially with social media. 1% can mean 300 people.
Yeah.
1% of something, can mean a lot. And I realized that this was years ago. I was in physical therapy for my ankle, and it was like the quarterly report for Google was released. And they had earned like 3% or something like that. But it was just like something like $600 million, something crazy like that. I'm like, that's crazy because the number 3 is not big.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just, so keep in mind with that when people, are thinking about doing something like, oh, and you never know who's going to tell somebody, who's going to tell somebody, who's going to tell somebody. So just also keep that in mind. 1% can be a huge number.
Yeah. And then even if you just add something to someone's life, like that's awesome.
Absolutely, because I know I learned something each month. So for those who are new, actually, I should have said this in the beginning, Which Way Magazine is an electronic magazine. So it hits your email box in the beginning of the month. And you can also join their private group, and you can have a little bit more interaction there. Because I actually follow someone, I can't think of her name right now. She was in the group, and then I followed her on Instagram, and she posts stuff about the goddess and things like that. So it is a really cool community.
Yeah, and we're always trying to do extra things. Not all the time. Sometimes, it ebbs and flows. But tonight we're actually doing card pulls just to welcome in spooky season. It really is just a wonderful, positive community. I'm really proud of all of our writers. So many of our writers they still contribute, but they've also gone on to write books and to, host their own classes and do their own thing. And it's just really, really cool to see that happen when someone who maybe had no following or had no audience, they now do because of the magazine. So that's also just super cool. It's like this great family.
And can we also talk about the graphics? Because, the covers of Which Way Magazine and the in-between pictures, wow. So what's the process behind that? Is that also submission-based? How does that go down?
So that's a little bit of both. So it is submission based. I try to have as many witchy people working on the magazine that I can in whatever aspect. So yeah, photographers can submit to us, and I do prefer it because again, we want to promote our own people. But I don't know. I pick the photograph. I pick the graphics and the photos. And I honestly don't put too much thought into it, but it always works out. So I think I just have a good eye for a good photo.
No, you do. So it sounds like you pretty much go with the flow. You trust your instinct, and you also know the things that you want to be more a part of and what you don't. And for those that you don't, you make sure that you are in contact and in the same vibe with people who are in that space, who know it pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. And we do have a photographer who she's one of our more regular photographers. She's based in Scotland, and she does at least a few covers for us every year. Her name is Dana. She's awesome.
Nice. Very nice. So when someone first gets their issue of Which Way Magazine, I know the sampler goes out when you first subscribe, but after that, what can they expect when they're going through the pages?
Oh my gosh. So I work really hard to make sure there is a equal variety of different types of things. So it's usually we say 70 to 100 pages, but it tends to be in the high 80s and maybe low 90s most of the time. We have everything from celebrations, so Sabbats or festivals around the world. We do recipes, we do new spell techniques, maybe just new spells. There's even a learn a spread column where if you are a card reader, we give you a spread you can try. Astrology, pagan, witchcraft in today's world, maybe witchcraft in history. So we try to hit kind of these general topics just so there's a good variety. It's not all, hey, we're talking about all the moon to, this month, but a little bit of everything. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't think I'm missing anything huge.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I remember when I was going through the pages, I didn't know what to expect, but that's me. I like being open-ended, open-minded, and it is a very nice variety of information. And I like that you blend the old with the new. And like you were saying earlier, there's always something you can take from it. And when I learn something oh my gosh, I didn't. And because sometimes you can read as much as you can, and then someone else will present you this text because, there are just tons of civilization and so many books out, and some things that didn't make it out the country, but then it finally did make it out the country, and now the Western world has it. So that's what I love, and for people listening, to always have an open mind. You can never know every single thing about one topic. You can know a lot, but there's always room to learn a little bit more, especially as the times go by and new things get discovered and released. So I think that's a very cool way to approach a magazine.
Yeah, and honestly, like, wouldn't it be so sad if we did know everything about like a topic or like witchcraft? Like, that would suck. I love the idea that we're always learning and exploring and figuring out. I think one of the biggest mistakes any spiritual person, no matter what kind of spiritual, I think the biggest mistake any spiritual person can make is thinking they've got it all figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Because learning and listening and exploring is just such a beautiful part of life.
It is. And then it makes way for you to meet other people and, see how they approach the very same topic. For example, I did a reel about tea magic. There are so many ways you can do it, So for me to be like, this is the way, and close my mind to looking at other ways that make tea magic would be boring. Like you said, I like to see what other people are doing, or, even like, hey, Tia, you don't even have to do that. Try this. I'm like, oh, you know what? One day, maybe I'll try that. So it allows you to also create a little community of your own.
And it's definitely an exercise in having to sidestep your own ego,
mm-hmm.
To be open to someone else's perspective and ideas. And I think that is how we do reach true mastery. I could think I know everything about, geometry, and then so-and-so comes about and they're like, oh, hey, but have you ever looked at it like this? And like, you may not agree, but you're like, oh, me knowing people look at it from that perspective does give me more in-depth into what I already know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So will there ever be a Which Way magazine in print one day?
So we do actually have printed issues. So this started maybe just like 2 or 3 years ago, but we actually do we actually do a buy. So while the digital issues are 70 to 100 pages every month straight to your inbox, and it's great. It's great for the environment. There's no waste, but unfortunately sometimes people do want a magazine in person. So we do like small batch runs of, so it's every 2 months instead of every month, but it's every 2 months, and they're smaller compilation guides. So it'll be like the best of spirit work of the last year, or best of herbal of the last year, or best of spell work. And they're smaller issues. They're 40 pages. But you do kind of get that I want something in my hands for that nostalgic magazine thing.
Mm-hmm.
That is sustainable and it's not overly harmful to the environment. And I think they're a good option to kind of meet in the middle.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Maybe I'll subscribe to that and have someone on my coffee table, and when my muggle friends come over, I'll go,
Yeah, I had this lady, she emailed me recently. Was kind of behind on orders because we've just been having like these back-to-back hurricanes here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was a little behind. But she messaged me and she's like, hey, it's, Halloween's coming up and my daughter's birthday. I would love to like get like 10 of these for her party. Is there any way you can have them out in the mail in like 2 days? I was like, 1, birthdays are awesome. So yes, I will have these out for you in 2 days. And it was just like, yeah, it's just cool, especially when, people are presenting them or putting them on display. It feels extra special.
Yeah, no, it does make it a little extra special. And I love that. And this is also in Which Way magazine of articles like how you can work with kids and magic and stuff like that. So I think it's really cool. Oh, I don't know if she's like a little girl, but the thought came to my mind of like when kids have birthday parties and how you can incorporate that into when they're starting to show signs that they're taking interest. And I thought about that because my friend, her niece is definitely a witch. She just said she has all the markings and she's just, slowly helping her with that process. So I think that's cool, especially for a birthday, and they can have their little coven of girls.
Yeah, that's our raising little witchlings column. And like I feel like witchcraft is so kid friendly. You have the fae and it's like you can do so many hands-on crafty things, and especially with how techie our world is, which don't get me wrong, I am techie. It teaches I feel like it also balances it out a little bit. Like, hey, there's the earth and there's these elements, and we could, it balances out just our world of really inside tech heavy.
Yes, absolutely. It kind of just, it helps bring it together in some ways. And there was one thing I wanted to mention as well. So for this month's issue, you actually wrote in the beginning about, just the current times and, just really seeking that light and things like that. So are there anything that you use in particular to help you during this time? Because I know the Which Way magazine helps so many people to get through these very particular times. And now, like you were saying, the hurricane in Louisiana, it's 2020.
It's 2020.
It's 2020.
One thing that and this is really hard for me to do, but I'm really trying to just be a little easier on myself, not be so critical. I feel like we live in a world, and also as witches, we are very productivity heavy. And as American, are you? Yeah, because you're in Pennsylvania. As Americans, we have such a go, go, go.
Your Google Home isn't set up yet.
Sorry.
It's okay.
But my Google goes off like every once in a while. But yeah, as Americans, we're so productivity heavy and produce. Don't take a break. Why are you taking a break? You should be doing this. And I am very much like that, just naturally. And we saw when the pandemic happened, everyone was just like, oh, now I can finally bake 12 loaves of bread when I've never made bread before. And I can finally write the next great novel and all this stuff. And it's like, we're all going through trauma. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if you want to, sure, but now's not the time to expect yourself to produce at such a high level. And I've been trying to get better at that, and I'm really looking at my life, really reevaluating what's important. And my friends are getting me through the first 6 weeks of quarantine was very difficult because I do live alone, and I'm also an essential worker. So I was going every day to a place that, policies were changing every day. We're scared. We don't know what's going on. There's fear. The customers, they're projecting their fear onto you. And it was really difficult. And because of quarantine and, living alone, I was just living in this little ball of, I'm afraid, I don't know what's going on. I'm having to go out into the world where we don't know what's going on. And now I can't even see my friends.
Right.
And it was really, really difficult. And then finally, me and one other friend were like, okay, quarantine bubble.
Yeah.
We have to at least see each other.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's one of those things where so many people forget this is new. Like none of us been through this before, let alone quarantine. And when it first happened, like, okay, no, this is real. I was just like, okay, very nervous. The uncertainty in this regard did make me worried on top of everything else that's going on. And I think it was either July. Oh, okay. So in May, I want to say, I just hit an all-time mental exhaustion point. I didn't do my podcast for like about 2 months. And I would batch material, or I would at least have like a couple of episodes in queue. I just couldn't do it. And I didn't plan on not doing podcasts for 2 months. It's just, I just hit that mark. So I can totally understand, especially when you're living alone and you're just like, look, I am someone who is social, So yeah, it's very trying times, and we are most definitely hard on ourselves. I remember when there are weeks where I'm just like, I could be so much more productive. I'm getting stuff done, but I know I could do more. And I'm so glad you said that, because I forget. We all can forget at times that, hey, this is not normal. This is not normal.
This is world trauma. World trauma. And we're all just doing our best to get through it. No, I had to do the same thing. There was a moment where everything, we're going through the pandemic. It was really stressful. And then when, George Floyd was murdered and the police accountability thing was being brought up, and everyone's like, okay, we have to focus on this. I record my podcast a week in advance. Mm-hmm. So I am a week behind, like news wise. And, Belle, which has never been a problem before, because I don't know, news has never come at us every day before, like it is now, where every day's history. That's never happened. And it was in 1 hour. 1 hour in the podcast group, someone said, "Why are you not saying anything about what happened?" And in 1 hour, they all turned against me.
Yeah.
And we're saying all these horrible things. And I just it was so wild. And I was just I was in shock, because I was saying things, they just didn't see it. Because I was doing it on the Which Way platform, where I have more of an audience. Mm-hmm. And it was just, and I had to explain. I'd explain my schedule and this and that. And I just, just give me a second. The shows just aren't out yet. And that was my mental low. And I had to take a break for about a week.
Yeah, I totally get it. And a lot of times people, when they are in a high emotional state, some logic and reason goes out the window, and they don't stop to think wait a minute, I'm doing this, just give me some time to get it together, and well, I already had this recorded and I don't know what's going on, or I've been working 12-hour shifts, I just didn't see the news yet. There's so many more factors involved at times, because again, it's so overwhelming that sometimes people can't look at the news, and sometimes they get their news elsewhere. I remember one time, I would never forget this, and this is why I will never delete my Twitter account. I was in the waiting room to get an MRI on my right ankle. And this is when the bombing happened at the Boston Marathon. I got an alert on Twitter, because whoever I followed, whatever it was, it just popped up. I'm like, oh my God. And I got that about a good 5, maybe even more minutes before it even hit the TV. I was getting it in real time. But again, that's someone who is on Twitter. Some people, for whatever reason, they're on one platform, not the other. And another thing I was going to say about that is, I've been seeing these memes of, if no one checks on you, that means that they don't care. But you got to stop to think too that maybe they're going through something. And I get it. It's no. If you care, you'll check up on it. But there have been people I've been checking up on all throughout this entire pandemic. Here and there, maybe once a month. And they said, "Tia, thank you. I am so sorry I didn't reach out to you. It's just, I got this, I got a newborn, I got, blah, blah, blah." And I'm just done. And not saying they didn't wish they didn't have the child. It's just on top of everything else. So.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about that.
And that's a huge thing too. And, I've said this on the podcast too. There's this weird thing going on where either we're not asking for help, or the extreme, we're asking for too much help. And I had to kind of say that on the podcast. So a friend of mine is having a baby, and which I'm so excited, but she had her baby shower, and she just kind of made a comment to me, and she was just like, "I'm really nervous about when I have to go back to work. I don't know what we're going to do about childcare." Right. And I live down the road from her job. Mm-hmm. So I was like, if you ever need me to help, I can, like, I'm here for you. Like,
Right.
just ask. And if I can help, I will. But on the flip side, we also have to understand that everyone is going through this trauma too. I think some people are forgetting, because it kind of feels like we're experiencing this all alone, but we do have to remember that everyone's going through this, and some people just can't help right now because they can barely help themselves. And sometimes it ebbs and flows. Sometimes I am in a state where I can be a support system for somebody, and then other times I'm just like, I can't even look at my phone right now. So it's this really weird balance. Really weird.
Really is. It really, really is. And that's why I'm just going to read a couple of sentences from your letter here, your editor's letter from this month, because I just think it's so fitting, and it just really hits the nail on the head. So actually, let me go back here. Okay, so it's difficult to find a bright spot as we move into many witches' favorite seasons. One thing we can do is really use this upcoming season for what it's for: retreating, pulling back, finding comfort, and focusing on much needed healing. So, and then you're going to talk about, the commitment of the witch way, and, keeping up with the subscriptions and stuff like that. I think that is just so important: retreating, pulling back, finding comfort, and focusing on much needed healing, whatever that looks like for us. So if that's, getting on the house party app with a couple of friends, that's been really holding me over many times. Like the first time I went out was, I think, in August or something like that, close to my birthday. So this is, again, one reason why I just love Witch Way magazine. Those words right there, I know that speaks volumes for every single subscriber.
Oh, that is so sweet. I don't always get feedback, so that's really, really kind. And that is what's wonderful about the kind of darker half of the wheel, for those who are, the darker half of the year, where it is more dark than it is light. It is the time to nest and to get comfortable and to make your home a safe space, especially for people who maybe don't feel that way. I think there are a lot of people in situations that we're kind of forgetting about: the people who maybe do live with, an abuser, or people who are in a roommate situation. Maybe they live with 4 people and one is an essential worker and they have to go out. And so for a lot of people, home has been this retreat, but for a lot of people, it hasn't. And to make it comfortable and to just focus on ourselves. I know my friends and I, we're kind of treating Halloween as the epitome of good. Mm-hmm. So we bought each other Halloween presents. Aww. And we are going to do a socially safe, fancy, Halloween dinner where we get all dressed up, but, safely, and kind of just being like, what, this is our season. It's going to be awesome. And 2020 has sucked.
I love that you guys are doing that. Man, my best friend Liz, she's in Connecticut. She's 4 hours away, but maybe I'll go visit her. I don't know, something, or maybe do it virtually. That's really cool.
Yeah, do fancy Skype dinner.
Right, I like that. I'm
like wear a tiara.
Right. Yeah, I had 2 flower crowns, because I'm the table leader for Dinner en Blanc in Philly, so I had these flower crowns. But I also have my Ravenclaw hat, so maybe I'll use one of those.
And you know what? We all deserve it.
Right, exactly. And it's so funny because in the beginning, or maybe even a little bit last year, when the first, when the charts came out, the moon charts, oh my God, it's a full moon on Halloween, and it's on a Saturday. It's a Saturday, full moon, because you end up celebrating it the week before, because on a Thursday and people had to go to work or whatever. But on a Saturday and a full moon, and it's oh, but Corona was psych.
Can't have all good things.
Right. This is my moment to go to, Salem. And that's another thing too. I want to go and I definitely want to go to New Orleans. I want to go to Salem. There's so many places I want to go and really immerse myself and learn more. Like I've been learning from afar, like, National Geographic or excuse me, the Discovery Channel when they do their things, or other documentaries. Like, oh yeah, I need to go there and, like do the tours and go to the shops and stuff. One day.
Yeah. And if you ever do decide to come, let me know. I have a list because, once I moved here, everyone started asking, hey, do you have any recommendations? I just made like a list of all my favorite places. So if you ever, do decide to come, let me know and I'll send it to you.
Nice. Yeah, I will definitely let you know. Awesome. So just a few last questions here. What are some of the future plans you have for, if you can tell us, for Which Way magazine?
So we have started publishing, so like books. So that is kind of the current project. In 2019, we came out with 2 books. So far, we've come out with 1 book this year, but we have like 6 in the works. So
Nice.
That's really exciting. It's new and it's different. So that's really exciting. We have the podcast, which is a year old, and I am going to start offering like supportive services for witches who just need like a guide, who need kind of one-on-one support. And as of now, that is on the podcast website, witchdailyshow.com. I'm just kind of, dipping my toe into that, nothing too major. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Very cool. Any final words?
Oh my gosh. Any final words? Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't know. I guess if there's anything I would just want to say to anyone listening is that any spiritual journey, no matter whether it's witchcraft or something else, is a true journey of faith. It requires trust, and it requires knowledge and learning and discovery, and it really can be like the most beautiful part of life.
That is true. The most beautiful part of life. Yeah, thank you. Those are some good final words because, yeah, I mean, diving into spirituality and especially for me, the witchy way has definitely made it more beautiful. That's for sure. More magical. Yeah. Yes. Well, Tonya, thank you so much for coming on the show. I have learned so much, and it's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really honored that you asked.
Yes, of course. And don't forget to check out Which Way magazine. Go subscribe monthly. It comes to your email box. Okay, and check out the Witch Daily Show. Again, it's so good. As always, I am rooting for you. I'm sending you so many blessings. And don't forget to be kind to yourself. Until next time, Spiritual Trailblazer. As always, Spiritual Trailblazer, thank you for tuning in. Do make sure to stop by and visit me at tiamariejohnson.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Last but not least, be kind to yourself. I'm rooting for you, and I'm sending you so many blessings. Until next time.